Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, be sure to drop your thoughts, feelings, and lessons in the comments below. Like the video and subscribe so you never miss stories like this. Let's get into it. The cruelest thing my wife, Tasha Caldwell, ever did was FaceTime me from the airport, smile like she was doing me a favor, then say, on speakerphone in front of her whole family, "Don't call me while I'm in Hawaii. If you need something, figure it out. And don't do that sensitive little face, man up." Everyone laughed like I was the entertainment, and she let them. She didn't defend me. She didn't soften it. She just watched my dignity get passed around that dining table like a side dish. Here's how it happened. My name is Derek Vaughn. I'm black, early 30s, and I manage logistics at a distribution hub on the southwest side of Chicago. Routes, dock schedules, carrier drama, and the kind of problems that come in hot at 5:12 a.m. and will ruin a whole week if you don't catch them early. I'm not loud. I'm not the type to slam doors or beg somebody to act right. I watch patterns. I track behavior. I take notes in my head the same way I track freight. What's late? What's missing? What keeps accidentally disappearing? Tasha is an entrepreneur in the way people say it, with their chest, body butters, candles, pop-up booths, and a rotating set of brand visions that change depending on what she saw online that week. She's charming in public. People love her. She has this bright, airy laugh that makes strangers feel like they've known her forever. But at home, she's always had a second version of herself, one that keeps score, punishes silence, and acts like respect is something you earn from her daily like a subscription. In the beginning, it really was good. I'll say that first, because it's the part people don't believe once they hear the ending. We met at a friend's birthday dinner in Hyde Park, and Tasha wore this emerald green dress that matched her nails perfectly. She was always coordinated like that. She talked with her hands, palms up, like she was presenting a case to the universe. When she laughed, she touched her chest first, like she was surprised joy could land on her. I liked her energy. She made life feel lit. Our first months were easy. Late-night walks by the lake, splitting fries at Harold's, laughing at the way the Red Line always found a reason to humble everybody. She'd call me Mr. Serious and try to loosen me up by playing old-school R&B while we cooked. I'd pretend to be annoyed and still sing along. She'd steal my hoodie and say, "I'm taking this. Don't argue." I didn't. I liked being claimed back then. It felt like affection, not possession. Tasha had this habit I noticed early. When she was lying, or at least bending the truth, she'd tap her acrylic nails against whatever surface was closest. Kitchen counter, car door, phone screen. Tap, 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 like she was knocking on the door of a story she wanted you to believe. I clocked it, but I ignored it because I wanted the relationship to be real so bad. That's my flaw. I can be too patient with red flags if I think love will mature them out. When we got married, we moved into a 2-bedroom apartment near Bronzeville. Not fancy, but clean, with a corner store downstairs that always smelled like incense and hot chips. The neighbors played gospel on Sundays, and somebody's uncle always had his car idling outside for no reason. Our building had thin walls, so we learned each other's routines fast. Her playlists, my early alarms, the way I washed dishes as I cooked, the way she left little piles of stuff everywhere like she expected the apartment to hold her chaos gently. My mornings became a ritual. I'm up before sunrise. Coffee black. Weather app. Work boots. I check my notes while the city is still quiet, and I sit for 60 seconds with no phone in my hand, just breathing because my job is nonstop noise. Sometimes I play the same 2 songs on low volume while I got dressed. Tasha used to tease me for it. "You live like you're in a movie montage," she'd say, smiling, and it felt like flirting. Later, she'd say the same thing with contempt. The disrespect didn't arrive as one big moment. It came like little paper cuts, spaced out just enough for me to doubt myself. She started correcting me in front of people. If I told a story at a cookout, she'd interrupt and fix a detail that didn't matter. If I said we might travel next month, she'd laugh and say, "He says that every month." I'd smile through it, because I didn't want to be the guy who ruins the vibe. I thought being calm was the same thing as being strong. The first real crack was at her mom's place. Her mother, Denise, is the kind of woman who can look disappointed without raising her voice. Just a long stare and a slow sip of sweet tea. Denise loved Tasha like an extension of her own ego. She liked me at first, mostly because I showed up on time and carried groceries without being asked. But I always felt like I was on probation around that family, like they were waiting to see what kind of man I would be when I got uncomfortable. Denise would say little things that sounded harmless until you heard them enough times. Derek, you work so hard. That's good. Tasha needs a steady man. Or, Tasha can't be with anybody. You hear me? Everybody would laugh. Tasha would laugh too, always a little too loud, like she wanted the joke to land harder. I'd chuckle politely and keep chewing because my mama raised me to respect elders. But every time, something in me tightened. Around our first anniversary, Tasha started treating my job like it was the reason she was stuck. One evening, I came home tired. The dock had been a mess, and she was on the couch scrolling, candles lit like she was curating a mood for herself. I asked how her day went. She barely looked up. Busy, she said. Then she glanced at my work shirt and smirked. You smell like cardboard and stress. I laughed at first, thinking she was joking. She didn't smile back. You know what I mean, she said. It's like you don't have dreams. You just work. I have dreams, I said calmly. I'm building toward them. She rolled her eyes. Oh my God, here you go. That phrase, here you go, became her favorite way to treat my feelings like a nuisance. It wasn't what she said. It was the way she said it, like my humanity was something she had to tolerate. Then came the phone accusations. The first time she asked to see my phone, it was playful. At least it looked that way. She slid onto my lap, kissed my cheek, and said, "Let me see who you are texting, Mr. Logistics." She giggled like it was cute. I handed it over because I had nothing to hide. She scrolled too long, though. Not one swipe. Not curiosity. Investigation. When she handed it back, she didn't apologize for checking. She acted like it was normal. After that, it got uglier. If my phone lit up, her eyes followed. If I stepped into the bathroom to take a call, she'd say, "Why you gotta hide?" If I looked at the screen and sighed because work was chaotic, she'd twist it into suspicion. "You're acting weird," she'd say. "It's dispatch," I'd answer. She'd tap her nails on the counter, tap, 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 and keep watching me like I was guilty until proven innocent. One night, she came at me with no evidence and full confidence. "You've been deleting stuff." I blinked. Deleting what? Messages. I kept my voice even. "Tasha, I don't delete messages." She crossed her arms and leaned back like she was the judge. That's exactly what somebody who deletes messages would say. I stared at her, trying to decide whether to laugh or be offended. I chose neither. I just said, "You don't get to accuse me with nothing in your hand." Her eyes narrowed. "Listen to you. Like you somebody." That one stung because it wasn't anger. It was dismissal. Like I was taking up too much space by defending myself. I asked, "Do you hear how you talk to me?" She shrugged. "You are too sensitive. Man up." And the crazy part is, I still try to make peace after that. I still cooked dinner. I still rubbed her shoulders when she was stressed. I still told myself she'd calm down once business picked up. Tasha's business did pick up a little. She started doing pop-ups in Wicker Park and vendor markets downtown. She'd come home energized, talking fast, phone always in her hand. The more attention she got, the less patience she had for anything that didn't spotlight her. If I suggested she slow down or plan inventory better, she'd snap, "You don't understand entrepreneurship." I'd answer, "I understand planning. I do it for a living." And she'd laugh like I'd told a joke. Planning pallets isn't the same. When she was wrong, she never apologized. She did this thing where she'd turn her mistake into your fault for noticing. If she forgot a bill, she'd say, "Why didn't you remind me?" If she double-booked an event, she'd say, "You're distracting me." If she hurt my feelings, she'd say, "You're always making it a big deal." I started realizing she didn't just avoid accountability. She avoided the feeling of being imperfect. And she'd rather damage the marriage than sit in that discomfort for 10 seconds. Her family fed it. Denise praised her like she was the first woman in history to work hard. Her Aunt Loretta treated marriage like a competition Tasha had to win. "Keep 'em in line," Loretta would say, laughing. "These men get too comfortable." Her cousin Reggie loved to narrate everything like I was a character in their show. "Big D," he'd call me, slapping my back. "Don't get soft on us." Tasha doesn't like soft drinks. And Tasha would beam, like disrespect with a love language everybody understood except me. One Saturday, we were at Denise's house on the south side for dinner. The table was full, greens, chicken, cornbread, sweet tea. The TV was low in the background, some game show. I was telling a story about work, how a driver tried to blame us for a late shipment, even though he checked in 3 hours after his appointment. Denise asked what I did again, like she always did. I said, I manage logistics. Tasha laughed and cut in, he basically babysits pallets. Everybody laughed. Loretta slapped the table. Reggie made a sound like a foghorn. Denise smiled like it was cute. I smiled too, because my face didn't know what else to do. But inside, my mind went quiet. I waited until we got in the car and asked calmly, why do you say it like that? Tasha stared out the window like she was bored already. Because it's true. It's not true, I said. And you know it. She rolled her eyes. Oh my God. Here you go. I'm just being honest. That's the thing about honesty in the mouth of somebody disrespectful. It's never about truth. It's about power. I told her, there's a difference between honesty and humiliation. She laughed sharp. Humiliation? Derek, be serious. I took a breath. I'm serious. She turned toward me then, eyes cold. You want to act like a victim so bad. If you can't handle a strong woman, just say that. And I went quiet again because part of me still believed arguing would make it worse. I started coping the way I always cope. Routines. I'd go on late-night walks when the apartment felt too tight. I put my headphones on and let music hold me together while the city hummed. I'd stop at the corner store, buy a bottle of water I didn't even need, just to have a reason to be outside. Sometimes I'd sit in my car for a few minutes before coming upstairs, hands on the steering wheel, trying to calm the feeling that I was slowly disappearing inside my own marriage. And I wasn't perfect. I avoided confrontation for too long. I thought silence was maturity. I thought not reacting meant I was above it. But silence can be a form of agreement if you let it sit there long enough. I was training her to believe she could say anything and I'd still be there, steady as a wall. I told myself I was being loyal. Really, I was afraid of starting over. The threat started when she realized I wouldn't explode. If I didn't react, she'd escalate. You act like you don't need me, she'd say. I'd answer. That's not what I said. She'd lean in, voice low. I'll leave, you know. I'll replace you. I could do better. Then she watched my face like she was waiting for panic. I didn't give it to her. Not because it didn't hurt, but because I refused to beg someone to choose me while they were actively disrespecting me. The Hawaii trip came up in the middle of a random Tuesday, like it was already decided. She walked into the kitchen wearing leggings and a satin bonnet, phone in her hand, eyes bright. So, I'm going to Hawaii, she said. I looked up from my coffee. For what? She waved her hand like details were beneath her. Business reset. Networking. Me time. Mariah and Jada are going too. How long? A week. I nodded slowly. Okay, we should talk about the budget. Her smile dropped. Why do you always make everything about money? Because money is real, I said. We have bills. She scoffed. I knew you were going to do this. You hate seeing me live. I don't hate you living, I said evenly. I hate being treated like your support staff. Her nails tapped her phone, tap, 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 and she tilted her head. Support staff? Derek, you really are feeling yourself lately. I stared at her. Feeling myself? Or finally noticing how you talk to me? She shrugged like my question was boring. Man up. It's not that deep. The week before she left, the disrespect stacked fast. She criticized my clothes for dinner with her friends. Why do you dress like somebody's uncle? She said, laughing, loud enough for the server to hear. Then she corrected my words mid-conversation like I was a child. While I got quiet, she poked me under the table and hissed, Don't act weird. You're embarrassing me. That sentence did something to me. Because I realized she didn't care if she embarrassed me. She cared if my reaction made her look bad. The night before her flight, she packed like she was leaving a life behind. She didn't fold. She tossed bikinis and sundresses into her suitcase, perfume bottles clinking like little warnings. I watched her and asked calmly, What's the plan out there? She didn't answer. She snapped, Why are you interrogating me? I'm asking, I said. She turned, eyes flashing. You act like you own me. I held her gaze. I'm your husband. She laughed mean. And you act like that's supposed to mean I can't breathe. The next day was the dinner at Denise's house, the one that turned into my humiliation. It was early evening, cold outside, the kind of Chicago winter air that cuts through your coat. Inside, Denise's house was warm and loud. Loretta was in the kitchen giving orders like she owned the stove. Reggie was talking over everybody like volume was authority. Tasha had FaceTimed in, smiling from the airport lounge, and Denise insisted we put her on speaker so the whole table could see her. Tasha's face appeared on my phone, lashes perfect, lip gloss bright, airport lighting making her look like she was already on vacation. Denise waved. Loretta yelled, "Hey, baby!" Reggie shouted, "Aye!" like she was a celebrity. Tasha laughed, eyes shining, then glanced sideways like she was checking who was listening. That was her performance look. Then she said it, clear, casual, sharp. "Don't call me while I'm in Hawaii. If you need something, figure it out. I'm not about to have you blowing up my phone." The table went quiet for half a second, then laughter burst like somebody popped a balloon. Reggie said, "Phew, she trained you." Loretta cackled like that was the funniest thing she'd heard all year. Denise smiled like my discomfort was just a normal seasoning in the meal. Tasha saw my face and tilted her head. Her nails tapped her cup. Tap, tap, tap. "Don't do that," she added. "That sensitive face. Man up. You're too sensitive." She said it like she was correcting a pet. I stared at her through the screen. My chest felt tight, but my voice stayed calm. "Copy," I said. "Enjoy Hawaii." Tasha blinked like she expected me to fight. Then she smiled, satisfied. "That's better. Love you." The call ended, and I sat there while everybody went back to eating like nothing happened, and I realized something. This wasn't just disrespect. This was a pattern backed by an audience. If I stayed the same, nothing would change. If I changed, everything would. I drove home alone that night. No music, just the hum of the expressway and the heater working overtime. When I got inside, the apartment felt like a stage after the show ended. Quiet, empty, props left behind. Tasha's suitcase was by the door. Her favorite perfume sat on the dresser like a signature. I sat at the edge of the bed and stared at my phone, not because I wanted to call her, but because I couldn't believe how normal she'd felt. The next morning, I woke up at 4:45 like always. Coffee, shower, work boots. I did my 60 seconds of breathing, but this time I didn't just calm myself, I focused. I opened my notes app and wrote 3 headings like I was building a plan at work. What I control. What I don't. What changes today. I wasn't angry. I wasn't plotting revenge. I was finally being honest with myself. My marriage wasn't a partnership anymore. It was a system where my calm was being used against me. At work, I moved freight like usual. I solved problems like usual. But my mind kept returning to that speakerphone moment. The way Tasha smiled after saying something cruel, the way her family laughed, the way nobody checked her. I realized Tasha didn't fear consequences. She feared discomfort. And the easiest way to avoid discomfort was to keep me small. So I decided I would stop making her comfortable with my responsibility. On my lunch break, I sat in my car and called my bank. Not dramatic, not messy, just practical. I asked what accounts were joint, what cards were linked, what could be separated immediately, and what required paperwork. The woman on the phone spoke calmly, like she'd done this 1,000 times. I took notes. Then I called my credit card company and froze the card attached to my name that Tasha used for business expenses without asking first. I didn't cancel it out of spite. I paused access out of self-respect. That same day, I called a lawyer. I didn't know what I was going to do yet. I just wanted facts, not feelings. The lawyer's office was in a building downtown with beige walls and quiet hallways that smelled like old paper. He didn't ask for drama. He asked for timelines, income, expenses, lease agreements. And as I answered, I felt my emotions settle into something solid, clarity. When I left, I didn't feel victorious. I felt grounded. Tasha landed in Hawaii and texted me a selfie with the ocean behind her and sunglasses on her face. Tasha, look smiling face with heart, eyes don't be blowing my phone up today. LOL, I stared at it for a long time. Not because I missed her, because I finally understood her. She didn't want peace. She wanted control without interruption. I replied with one word, me. Understood. An hour later, my phone rang. Her sister, Keisha, then Denise, then Loretta. It was like they were all part of the same alarm system. I let them ring. I didn't do it to punish them. I did it because I needed space to think without being pulled into their noise. Then Tasha texted again, fast. Tasha, why is my car declining? That's when I knew Don't Call Me was never about boundaries. It was about convenience. I waited 10 minutes before responding. Not a game, just enough time to keep my nervous system from reacting. Then I called her once. She answered on the first ring, beach noise behind her, voice sharp. Hello, what did you do? I kept my tone even. I paused anything attached to my credit. She laughed like I'd made a ridiculous joke. You're serious? You doing this because I told you not to call me? No, I said. I'm doing this because you embarrassed me in front of your family and called me sensitive when I didn't enjoy it. Tasha's voice rose. Oh my God, Derek. Here you go. Making everything about you. I didn't bite. I listed facts, as a report. You refuse to apologize when you're wrong. You check my phone and accuse me with no proof. You talk down on my work. You expect everything while giving little effort back. You call me names during conflict. You dismiss my feelings with man up. You criticize me publicly and call it honesty. And you threaten to replace me when you don't get your way. On the line, she went quiet. No remorse, quiet. Calculation, quiet. She tried a softer voice. So, what do you want me to do right now? I'm on vacation. That's the point, I said. You feel entitled to peace while I'm swallowing disrespect. Her nails tapped something. Tap, tap, tap. Even through the phone, I could hear it. You tried to embarrass me out here. I'm not trying to embarrass you, I said. I'm refusing to be embarrassed. Her tone hardened again. If you can't handle a strong woman doesn't need an audience to belittle her husband, I said. She hung up on me, and I sat in my car after work, staring at the steering wheel, feeling two emotions at once, sadness and relief. Sadness because I was finally admitting the marriage was cracked. Relief because I wasn't confused anymore. That night, I went upstairs and started separating my life quietly. I made a folder, lease bills, pay stubs, account statements. I took photos of important documents. I changed passwords. I didn't hide anything illegal. I just protected myself the way I should have been doing for a long time. Over the next few days, Tasha's business reset turned into stress. Not because I attacked her, because she'd built her life on the assumption that my stability would always cover her impulsiveness. Her website subscription lapsed. Her vendor payment bounced. The storage unit late fee hit. She texted me like it was my fault reality existed. Tasha, this is petty. Tasha, you know I need that card for inventory. Tasha, why are you acting like a bitter man? I didn't answer every message. I only responded when it was necessary and only with facts. Denise called and left a voicemail that sounded like a sermon. Derek, you are a married man. Stop acting like a child. Let my daughter enjoy her trip. You know how she is. You know how she is. That sentence used to sound like acceptance. Now it sounded like permission for harm. Keisha texted me too. Bro, just let her have this. She gets stressed. I stared at my screen, then put my phone down. I wasn't arguing with a family that treated disrespect like personality. When Tasha came back to Chicago, the tan on her skin couldn't hide the frustration in her eyes. She walked into our apartment, pulling her suitcase like it was heavy with more than clothes. She looked around like she expected me to be waiting with open arms and guilt. I was in the kitchen, calm, making tea. She dropped her bag. So you're really doing this? I nodded once. We need to talk. She scoffed. Do we need to talk? You froze my money. I froze my credit. I corrected. Your money is yours. She saw the folder on the table and froze. Her face shifted fast. Anger to fear to pride in 2 seconds. What is that? Information, I said. Bills. Accounts. Options. She flipped it open and her hands trembled a little. Then she snapped it shut like the truth was disrespectful. So you planning to leave? I'm planning to stop being disrespected, I said. She laughed, but it was thin. Derek, you are so dramatic. I looked at her. No, I've just been quiet. She tried to flip the script like always. You know my family thinks you weak now, right? I didn't react. Your family laughed when you embarrassed me. They laughed because it was funny, she said quickly. What was funny about telling your husband not to call you? She opened her mouth, then closed it, then chose cruelty because it was familiar. You always want to be a victim. You want a gold medal for being a man. I breathed out slowly. I want respect. The fact that you hear respect and translate it to victim is the problem. That's when she went for her favorite weapon, replacement. I can do better than you. You know that, right? I nodded like I'd heard it before because I had. If you believe that, you wouldn't need to threaten it. Her eyes flashed. So you think you got some prize? I'm not a prize, I said. I'm a person, and you don't treat me like one. She looked like she wanted me to yell, so she could justify herself. I stayed calm. It made her angrier. The consequences didn't hit her like lightning. They tightened slowly like winter closing in. When she tried to borrow money from Keisha, Keisha suddenly had excuses. When she called Denise to complain, Denise told her to handle it because Denise didn't want to admit her daughter was wrong. When Tasha's friends from the Hawaii trip realized she wasn't paying for brunch anymore, they stopped inviting her so loudly. Her business slowed because she was distracted, and she blamed me for it like I was the weather. Meanwhile, my life got quieter in a way that felt unfamiliar. I moved my things into a smaller place near Midway, close enough to work that I could breathe. I didn't post about it. I didn't announce it. I just did it. I went to the gym early, not to look like a new man, but to burn off the stress I'd been storing in my chest for years. I started journaling at night, simple lines. What happened, what I felt, what I wish I'd said. I wasn't rewriting history. I was learning by myself. Tasha tried one last time to pull me back with performance. She showed up one evening with softened eyes, voice gentle, like she'd borrowed humility from somebody else. I didn't mean it like that, she said. You know, I'm just blunt. I waited. Did you mean to apologize? Her nails tapped her purse, tap, 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 and she sighed. You always got to make it so serious. There it was. Even her repair was still about avoiding accountability. I nodded slowly. Then nothing changed. The last time we spoke, she said, everybody's going to know you couldn't handle a strong woman. I looked at her, calm and clear. Strong isn't the same as disrespectful. She stared at me like she didn't recognize the man who wasn't begging. I didn't hate her. I didn't wish for her destruction. I just stopped volunteering for the role she cast me in. And when I walked away, it wasn't dramatic, it was final. Peace isn't something you win. It's what shows up when you stop accepting less than respect. If you made it to the end, you already understand. Calm doesn't mean weak. If you want more real stories like this, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share this with someone who's been swallowing disrespect to keep the peace. Also, what would you have done at that dinner table? Comment on it. The end.